What is up? How are you all doing? Welcome back to the CKM Red Rugby League channel. Hope you are well wherever you're watching from. Of course, it is Tuesday, and that can only mean that the team lists are officially out, which means that myself and Luke Jobson will be taking you through all the teams, all the news, and doing our best to give you our tip predictions for round 15 of the NRL's 2021 season. How are you going, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm pretty proud of you. You didn't start with the hi there. How's it going? Welcome back to the. You've changed it up this week. I'm proud. Mate, it must be a new lease of life coming for you soon because that's different. I like it. We should do more of it, mate. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm keeping people on their toes. We can't get too predictable. We can't be caught slipping. You know, people start memeing that stuff.
Maybe they'll meme our tip from last week because you went well. I went absolute dog crap.
Same again this week, hopefully. And with that, we'll jump straight into game one. It is the Broncos versus the Rabbitohs. So the Broncos gone through a little bit of a backline change. Tessie New is going to be your fullback this week with Herbie Farnworth going to the centres. No return for Isako on the cards. And good to see Tyson Gamble back in the 7 shirt as well. So those are the big changes out of the Broncos this week. As for the Rabbitohs, pretty much unchanged. Burns comes out of the centres with Gagai going into the 3 shirt, obviously back from Origin duty. And then their bench is Burns, Selle, Burgess and Host. The rest of the side unchanged with the exception of Arrow back in the 12 shirt for the Rabbitohs. I mean, I think that we're probably both going to go Rabbitohs on this one for obvious reasons. I mean, the Rabbitohs are sensational this season. The Broncos are hot and cold wherever they are, and it's just, I mean, especially with the Broncos changing up their backline again. You know, you've still got Hunt in the 6 shirt. Kelly loses out with Tyson Gamble coming back in. There's just a lot of chopping and changing, and there's a lot of Broncos fans that are calling for Xavier Coates out of the squad, obviously questioning his commitment to the Broncos with his contract up and the rumblings that he'll be with the Storm next season. So a little bit of a few disgruntled fans, and obviously you've got Corey Oates as well on the outer.
Yeah, Corey Oates went to the Broncos staff and basically asked for an explanation as to why they're playing the likes of Cobbo and an out-of-form, out-of-contract Coates over the likes of himself and Dale Copley. I mean, read into that what you will. In his contract, it does state that he can indeed and probably will move at the end of this season if he's not getting the right opportunity. So they're in disarray, the Broncos. There's no easy way to say it. I thought they would bounce back in Carmichael Hunt's first game back last week, and quite frankly, I don't know how he's kept his spot looking at how he played. But it looks like Albert Kelly is still out with his injury. Maybe they regret releasing Tom Dearden. Who knows? You're completely right, though. Rabbitohs 13 plus, 18 plus, 24 plus. Take your pick. You can go one of many different ways there. They should be too good. It's a full-strength side. You've got the Source and Jaden Sewer both riding the reserves at the moment. A full-strength squad. Cam Murray's back in a Rabbitohs jersey. Latrell Mitchell was very quiet last week, and they still got a very comfortable win in the end. Gagai back in the centres. He comes up against Jesse Arthurs. Again, not a great defensive centre. Jesse does his job, but it's Gagai who's looking to get some form going into Origin 2. Anytime try scorers, I mean, the Rabbitohs 1-7 are all a big shout. Tane Milne is holding his spot, whether he swaps out for the Source to be determined. You can go one of many ways. Alex Johnson for a double, again, is a pretty good bet. If anyone's going to throw any money on anything there. Could absolutely make an argument for Damien Cook scooting out a dummy half and getting a try there. You could also make another argument potentially with Jai Arrow playing on the edge. He'll line up against Alex Glenn, I believe. Glenn's still trying to get some match fitness into him. They do have Hetherington, and we're not going to start about Kobe Hetherington this week, Matthew. We're not going to start about that. But they've also got Palacio and Rabati on the bench who can all play edge. But I think Jai Arrow goes on and goes over very early, potentially a smoky for a first try scorer. Bunny's 13 plus, AJ double, Jai Arrow. It's worth the spec, I reckon, for any time. And a first time try scorer, would imagine he's paying about $31.
Okay. I'm going to stick with the changing things up. I'm going to give I'm going to go with a tip that I've never actually gone with before. I'm going to say Broncos under 10 points. I think that they struggled last week against a very poor Raiders side who were absolutely in disarray between injuries and staff fallouts and locker room revolution. And the Broncos only managed 18 points against them. Against a Rabbitohs side who are pretty watertight on the edges, very strong up the middle as well. And then they've got the likes of Cook, who's just a tackle machine, just coming in, darting around, causing havoc up the middle and making sure that those big bodies are not getting overworked. I can't see the Broncos getting up over more than 10 points here. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to join you on Rabbitohs 13 plus. And if I'm going to go anytime try scorer, I just think Cody Walker coming up through the middle as he starts to work those edges both sides. People are always very aware of Johnston, Gagai, Graham, Milne, and the try scoring prowess that they have. I just see that the Broncos probably stretch themselves a little too far. Walker sells a dummy, goes through the gap and scores. That's how I envision that one going, working either side of those edges towards those 20 players. And yeah, I'm going to go with that one. So Broncos, no more than 10 points. Rabbitohs 13 plus. Walker anytime for me.
Walker anytime, $2. Jai Arrow, $23. First try scorer. I reckon it's worth a $5.
Definitely. Well, I think we are unanimous in that one. And with that, we will get on to the Cowboys and the Sharks. Obviously, the Cowboys suffering last week. They will unfortunately not be winning the Premiership this year after conceding 50 points against the Sea Eagles. Obviously, that is the hammer blow to every team's season. So might want to cash that one out for the few cents that it's worth if you did back them at the beginning of the season. As for the Cowboys lineup, not many changes. Cohen Hess is back in the 8 shirt in his reborn position. Ever since he's made that move to prop, he's been somewhat of a revelation this year. Lachlan Burr, Tom Gilbert, Jake Granville and Molo make up the bench. Obviously, Tabuai Fido is keeping his centre spot with Javid Bowen. Tabuai Fido, of course, tipped for in an origin spot should they decide to not go with Capewell, which is an interesting choice. As for the Sharks, looking at their lineup, unchanged with the exception of Talakai coming in from the bench to replace the injured Wade Graham. Obviously this week we've seen one player unfortunately have to call time on their career due to head injuries and knocks of that nature. And if Graham continues down that route, we may be forced to see another, unfortunately. So at the minute, we are sending him our best thoughts and a speedy recovery to him. And he's a huge loss to the Sharks. I mean, we go to the Sharks last week. Yes, they got up over Penrith, but that is a heavily depleted Penrith side that they did get up over. And they didn't do it in the most convincing of fashion, leaving it to the last minute and a half. Sean Johnson drop goal. The Sharks, they were good in patches. Where they were really good, where they were good, they were really good. But where they were poor, absolutely terrible. Very easy tries conceded. It's almost atypical of a Sharks performance this season, where they are very sturdy when they want to be, and then those just defensive lapses, they concede points very, very easily.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about the Sharks. When they play at their absolute best, they're a team that can push a top 4 side. When they play at their absolute worst, they lose to the Bulldogs. It's a very big floor to ceiling kind of scale. for Cronulla. And the same goes for the Cowboys. The Cowboys, who I don't know how, are in the top 8. We definitely weren't going to be saying that 8 weeks ago. Did not look like a top 8 side last week. There was no cohesion. Yes, it was Tom Dearden's first game, but it just looked ugly. It looked really, really ugly. The immediate thing that stands out for me is the fact that you've got the likes of Frankie Molo on the bench. Molo is an absolute gun. Don't know why he's not starting and Cohen Hess is on the bench. The fact that Hess, yes, he's an Origin player, but he's not been playing that well this year. Yeah, he's been better at prop, but he still hasn't been playing great. The fact that he's starting over Frankie Molo and Tom Gilbert, for that matter, is, yeah, I don't know about that one. It's a bit interesting. The same can be said for Fafita. I was watching the game with a couple of buddies last week, and they straight up said, man, Fafita does not look like the Fafita of old. He's not a threatening ball runner. He's not that try scorer from Cronulla's grand final win. Yes, that was 7 years ago, almost. 7 years ago, 5 years ago, one of the two. But he doesn't look like a top 17 player anymore. And you've got the likes of Sione Katoa, who's potentially coming back, Hamlin Uele, who I'd have in there over him, Billy Magoulias, who, the Greek international, fantastic player. I'd probably have him in there as well. There's a couple of interesting team selections for me. I'm curious to see what happens if Katoa gets given the all clear to return. Does Tracy drop out? Does Mulatalo drop out? Connor Tracy's been one of the Sharks' best this year as a winger. He's not a winger, but he's been one of their best and adapted incredibly. And the dude's bloody quick. Mulatalo, renowned finisher. Good ball carry. Does the tough yards. Does he come out for Katoa? Does Connor Tracy go inside and Will Chambers drops out? There's options here. I'm sticking with the choice that I made last night. I sat down, I wrote every game down, wrote my predictions just based on the predicted teams, and this is more or less what the team was. I'm going Sharks 1-12. If the Cowboys play like they did last week, and the Sharks play like how they did last week, the Sharks get up. Not by much, but I think the Sharks have probably a try over them. Both teams should come out firing. It's round 15. The Cowboys have their origin stars back. But Sean Johnson is starting to find a rich vein of form that will see him get another contract. Will Kennedy is starting to have a very good understanding of the game. He's starting to see repeat teams, and he's getting a real good feel of NRL football in what's really his first real consistent season at the back. Toby Rudolph had a great game last week. Aiden Tolman had a decent game last week. Aaron Woods now has a point to prove. He's not going to be there. He's not there in 2022. He's got to have gun games. Teague Wilton, Jack Williams, Braden Trindle, all playing their own part in different ways. And then, like I said, the reserves, they can all come in and do their job if called upon. I'm going Sharks 1-12. Jesse Ramey, an anytime try scorer. I think he goes straight over the top of Jarvid Bowen.
It's a decent shout. I mean, just while you were going over the Katoa stuff there, I was having a little think. I mean, for me, you can't break up that Ramey and Mulatalo partnership. That's probably their strongest edge in regards to consistency and just attacking prowess. You got the raw power of Ramey and then the aerial stylistics of Mulatalo squeezing into the corner wherever he can. And it's an explosive edge. And you got to say that probably it would unfortunately be Tracy that drops out just because Chambers is a natural centre. That's what Cronulla are missing at the minute. I mean, with Dugan just constantly out of the squad and big questions about his future again, another player that's been told basically, find somewhere else in 2022. As you mentioned, these players, they're not playing for the jersey anymore. They're playing for a contract, and regardless of how many social media posts they'll put out about how dedicated they are to the cause, they're walking around with a big old for sale sign on the front of them. Whenever Sean Johnson ices a drop goal like that he did last week in big games against big clubs like the Panthers, he has the right to go to teams and demand more money. The same way that, Woods, whenever he comes up with those big carries and suckers people in and finds a bit of an offload or a quick play the ball, again, can go somewhere and ask for that more money. So the Sharks are very much a team of individuals at the minute, and that's not a good place to be. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to join you on Sharks 1-12 as begrudgingly as I'd like to, just simply because that cohesion's not there in the Cowboys yet. I mean, yes, you get Holmes back at 1, that firms up your spine quite nicely, and you got Felt back on the wing, but that young, inexperienced halves pairing that's still working together, still feeling the game out in Drinkwater and Dearden, it's going to be, like the halves days of old where you've got one player on one side of the pitch and one player running the game on the other side, just because you're not going to have that second phase play. You're not going to have players waiting at second receiver that are going to be able to set up those very liquid, very fluid, block plays that we are so used to seeing. And we saw that last week from the Cowboys when they tried to run those kind of plays. It just wasn't happening. Players were coming through in the wrong gap. People were getting on the inside shoulder instead of the outside. It was a little bit all over the place. So I'm going to say, yeah, Sharks 1-12. Push me for an anytime try scorer. I like your thinking of Ramian. He is just a powerful player. I'm going to go Mulatalo. Just similar logic. I think they exposed that edge. The Cowboys haven't got the strongest back five in the comp right now, and I think although the Sharks are a little bit makeshift here and there, I still think that they are the better team 1 through 5. Not all over, but definitely in 4 out of 5 of those spots. So yeah, I'm gonna go Sharks 1-12 and Mulatalo anytime, and I think we probably leave that one there and we go to the Panthers versus the Roosters. So the Panthers will be welcoming back plenty of their Origin stars, and their squad this week reflects exactly that. So you have got Edwards, Staines, Crichton, Burton, and Toto as your back 5. Burton coming out of the halves, Luai, Cleary back in. Coruscant is still named in the 9 despite being put on report last week. You have Fisher Harris in the 10, Liam Martin and Kurt Capewell make up your second row spots, and Isaiah Yeo is in your 13. Kenny, Sorensen, Eisenhuth, and Targo are your bench. And as for the Roosters, the only change that they make is Kieran into the 9 for Marshke and Verrills into the 14 shirt. So it's great to see Sam Verrills will be getting back out there. But you've got to say that this one's going to be a big week for the Roosters. I'm going to come straight out of the blocks and I'm going to say that the Roosters win this one, which it's a big call. And the only reason I'm going to say that is just because this is essentially Boyd Cordner's send-off game. A very emotionally charged Roosters side this week who want to send their retiring captain out on a high. Who better to do it against than a team that is tipped to win the comp? Struggling for a little bit of form. Yes, that is due to Origin-based disruptions, and you can say that about, 60-70% of the losses that were experienced last week by teams. But the Panthers obviously hit the hardest with having the largest contingent missing. But I just think that emotional edge of trying to send Cordner out on a high and doing it for him will be enough to get the Roosters a win here. And I think the Panthers are not exactly 100% at the minute as well. Cleary obviously carrying a bit of a knock from Origin with that cut and that potential fracture to the cheek as well. I think it's going to be a low scoring one. I don't see this one running for more than 40 points, but I'm going to say that Roosters 1-12 straight out of the blocks.
I love the fact that we're disagreeing on this one. I am going Panthers 1-12. And it's because they're getting their Origin stars back. Yes, the news about Boyd Cordner, as sad as it is, will pump these boys up. this isn't the game that they'll celebrate him. They'll celebrate him when they play the Storm after Origin. Potential full squad, potential full Storm squad in front of a packed-out SCG. Boyd Cordner, captain of the club, captain of the team, New South Wales and Kangaroos rep, World Cup winner, Origin winner. They're going to pack the SCG for Cordner. Surely. That's the high. Panthers get up in this. They get up because Cleary and Luai are back. They get up because there is no Tyrone May and Matt Burton in the halves. That experiment's done. Forget about it. It's not happening. Tyrone May is not the player that he was pre-sex tape scandal, essentially. He, for whatever reason, he's lost a little bit of spark. Yes, the Roosters do retain Taukiaho, who was successful at the judiciary tonight. Yes, it is a Warrior Hargraves, a Taukiaho, a Crichton, Tupanua, a Liu, against Leota, Fisher Harris, Martin, Capewell Yo. Now, this is international and origin forwards against international and origin forwards. But I think Api Coruscant has that experience and the speed out of dummy half to exploit a tiring defense. Adam Kieran, not so much. Now, if Sam Verrill starts, then I could potentially be swayed the other way. Sam Walker is named to play. Will he play? That depends on how he pulls up with his shoulder. But Dylan Edwards is back. There's 200 meters there. 200 meters. Matt Burton in the centers is lethal. Very scary, especially running off Luai and what will be Liam Martin. I don't know, name a team that loses Billy Kickout, who's one of the worst people to have sprinting at you from 10 yards out, and their second string left edge is Liam freaking Martin. What the hell? Come on. But two bustling forwards. Burton goes over, I have no doubt. They're going to try and jam Luai out the back, which will mean that the short ball to Martin is an opportunity. That also means Cleary could very well go over, or you'll see the long ball out to To'o. I've got Panthers 1-12. It's going to be a close game. I absolutely agree that it could be a low-scoring game. Or it could be a 20-18, a 20-.
Oh, it appears that we've just lost Luke. Unfortunately, there, I'll keep us going while he's while he's trying to get back. But while he's sorting that out, we'll crack on. But Luke makes some good points there. As for the Roosters, I just think that probably the game plan for them is that they will go high ball, looking for Tupou. I mean, he's got a real height advantage on Toto. We've seen time and time again that Toto is very strong in the air, but I just think that if Lamb or Walker can pick out Tupou with a kick to the corner, I reckon that he gets over. But this game's going to be won and lost on the edges. It's going to be a physical encounter up the middle, but there's not going to be many points scored there. It's going to come down to the backs, which does concern me because when you look at the Panthers squad, arguably they've got the form backline. The thing that does worry me is definitely the Panthers bench. I mean, you've got Kenny there who will be used to give Coruscant a little bit of a rest, and they'll eject him into the game where possible and really cause headaches. Sorensen, again, serviceable second rower. Forward, Eisenhoof, again, another decent forward, and Targo, who obviously got his first try in the NRL last week. But when you look to the Roosters bench, Verrills, Butcher, Saluka, Fafita, Baker, some decent players in there, but I just it's going to be a tough one. I just think that the Roosters get up here. It's just a gut feeling, and we back that. Anything for you to add, mate?
Sorry about that. N-Power cut me in the net for a second. Like I said, Panthers 1-12. I rambled on enough about why I think they're going to win. I'm going Matt Burton, anytime try scorer. Liam Martin, an absolute shout, as is Nathan Cleary. I maintain those. Brian Toto, probably no value for it. If you want to look for a rooster for anytime try scorer, like you said, I agree. It's going to be one and lost on the edges. I think it's going to be Tupou v Staines. So Daniel Tupou will be a huge shout. And this is on a Roosters side that is currently paying $4 on Sportsbet to win. Mind you, it's 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night. So take that for what you will. But Daniel Tupou right now is paying $2 on the nose. It is very rare that you will get him any higher than that.
Yeah. With that, then, we will jump into the Knights against the Warriors. And the Knights, a welcome sight for Knights fans will be the naming of Kalen Ponga in the one shirt. Dom Young will be named in the side this week. Obviously, he played last week and did bag a try, so congratulations to Dom there. Clifford and Pearce will be your halves, so the Knights also welcoming back Mitchell Pearce, the Saifiti brothers in the props. That's a terrifying setup right there. And then Clemmer comes back into the bench as well. So big changes in the Knights squad, expected to give a better account of themselves than they did last week. As for the Warriors, Reece Walsh is named at 1, Montoya at 2. Berry and Aitken are going to swap sides as the numbers line up this week, with Tuivasa-Sheck partnering Ewan Aitken in that wing centre partnership. Nikorima and O'Sullivan will be your halves pairing, with the news that Chanel Harris-Tavita will be missing potentially the rest of this season. But they do welcome back adding Fanua Blake, with Jazz Tavonga coming in the 9 shirt. Murdoch Masilla comes from the bench to join him in the other starting prop role. And then it is the same 11, 12 and 13 from last week, which is Siranen, Harris and Curran, with Katoa, Amoa and Foa and Evans all on the bench. Jesus Christ, that was like a Dr. Seuss book, that. But we will persist with those lineups there. I mean, I'm really, really struggling with this one, mate. I will be completely honest. I just have this sneaking suspicion about the Warriors, but looking at the Knights, they welcome back Mitchell Pearce, who will really steady the ship, but he's going to be partnering Jake Clifford. Ponga, yes, he's named in the 1, but will he play? Fingers crossed he does. Young and Mann, that's another unfamiliar wing centre partnership there. It's crazy hard to call this one, but I have a sneaking suspicion about the Warriors. And although I say it's hard to call it, I'm going to say Warriors 13 plus, just because the Warriors are ridiculously unpredictable, and it's just how I'm thinking that this one's going to play out. Again, gut feeling here.
Ooh, Warriors 13 plus, you say? Interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting. Warriors 1 to 12. Just to completely ruin any intrigue out of that one. Ponga and Pearce, Origin and potential Kangaroo players at the end of the year for the World Cup. Depending on who you ask, they'll at least be part of the squad. I'm not going to get into the Connor Watson thing again. Yes, he played and didn't play overly well last week and just made me look like an absolute numpty. But he's still one of the best in the team, man. How is he not in the starting 13? I don't get that. But again, that's a question for another day. Walsh back. I didn't really think about it until now, but my mouth just watered. Walsh v Ponga. Tasty.
Okay.
That is a very tasty way to start Super Saturday on Fox. Reece Walsh could very well be in the Origin team. There are calls to bring him in. 6 games in the NRL and could be an Origin player. Go figure. Sean O'Sullivan finally back from injury, gets his chance. He'll be the guider. Nikorima hopefully won't have to carry the team on his back this week. Tohu Harris in the 12, Curran in the 13. Still a bit unsure about that, but kind of worked last week. You know, the try for Aramia, I believe. That beautiful pass from from Hines onto, who did Hines give it to? Remus Smith, I believe, and that beautiful little lofted pass to Aramea. I think that was the only try that went down that side. The rest were all left side play. So that kind of worked. Eli Katoa, Armau, Foa, Kane Evans on the bench. Interesting that Dave Clemmer is back on the bench with Jacob Saifidi taking his starting spot. But Saifidi probably has been the better prop out of those two this year, so I can understand it. Take your pick, man. Like you said, take your pick. I don't know about 13 plus. Montoya v. Hunt, Montoya v. Young. It's tough. The thing that I think gets the Warriors over the line is that they have Roger and Walsh who can switch out when they need. Roger will be what Trebojevic was in Origin. He'll be a floating second fullback who can come in and provide good service on the opposite side. And it's going to attract defenders on the edge and allow Walsh to go through. It'll allow the likes of Sirinen, Murdoch Masila, Lisa Narmau, Eli Katoa to go through on the edge. And I think that's where the Warriors will get them. I think they'll target Lachlan Fitzgibbon. They'll target Jake Clifford. They'll want to target Pearce. First game back off a pec injury. They're going to want to target him with big bodies early, see how he's feeling. The Knights will come back in Newcastle, 3:00 game. Saw the atmosphere for the first time a couple of weeks ago with the Knights and Parramatta. With those games, atmosphere is electric. But the Warriors still on the buzz. They lost Kenny last week. They bring back Reece Walsh this week. It's tough, man. It's really tough, but I'm going Warriors 1-12. Anytime try scorer, I'm going to say Bailey Sirinen. I think that Sirinen goes over, and it'll be because Roger goes to that side and pushes through as that second fullback, and the likes of Walsh or Nicarima give that short ball on.
Okay. I just want to throw in there as well. Someone made a bold shout for Origin last week of a certain Mr. Saifiti getting over at 11-1, and that one got up. So we'll thank you. Peter Badge is in the post. The rest of the multi shot, we'll ignore that, but that one got up. Yeah, I'm gonna go Warriors 13 plus. When the Warriors play well, they play absolutely lights out, untouchable. And I think that when they played the Storm last week, we both kind of tipped it a bit of a Storm landslide. The Warriors just don't hold up well against Melbourne. They never have and probably never will, unfortunately. I like the fact that they've brought in the two big bodies of Fanua Blake and Murdoch Masila straight off the bat to combat the Saifiti brothers. Fire with fire. That's an incredible lineup right there. That's going to be huge, battling up the middle. But again, similar to the last game, won and lost on the edges. And I think that the Warriors have got the better edge. Ewan Aitken is just so explosive close to the line, especially if he's coming up against a player like Kurt Mann, who is not a natural centre. These two do know each other from both of their times at the Dragons, so they'll have an idea of each other's play style. So I think that's going to be an interesting lineup. So I see that Aitken is probably going to neutralise the threat of Mann on the edge. And likewise, he's probably going to bump his way over and he's going to bag a try himself. So I'm going to go Ewan Aitken anytime. As for the Warriors and their play style, it's just going to be speed on speed. I mean, with both sides, you've got unfamiliar halves pairings. You've got Clifford and Pearce, and you're 6 and 7, Nicarima and O'Sullivan. You're 6 and 7 on the other side. So, I mean, it's kind of rock, paper, scissors on that one as to which of the sides got the better halves and who's going to be more cohesive at this point. But I just think having Tavunga at 9, who obviously comes in and can play a little bit of 13 as well, he'll switch out. Curran will probably come to the bench and Katoa will be injected into the game from the 14 shirt, come in the 9 again, introduce a new dynamic. Yes, the Knights have Mitch Barnett, but I just think that the more sturdy Warriors front set will probably create more headaches for the Knights than they can deal with on the day. So if the Warriors play like they usually do when they play well, which is just ridiculous, I'm saying Warriors 13 plus. I think that probably 1 to 12 is probably your more solid and more reliable shout, but I just get the sneaking suspicion that the Warriors, again, rocks and diamonds kind of team, and I'm predicting diamonds out of the Warriors this week.
All right.
Okay. We will go to the Dragons versus the Raiders. And the Dragons, I don't know what the hell happened last week. I can't lie. I was all over the Dogs. I literally went to town on them at one point, said, you'll never hear me say the word Dogs 13 plus. It's not going to happen. And the Dragons, do you know what? I don't need any help. I can make myself look stupid all by myself. But the Dragons were there with the assist there. So thank you for that one, St. George. I'll buy you a pint. But the Dragons were terrible last week. They've gone for a pretty much unchanged lineup. The only change is that they welcome back Sims, which means that Kerr will drop to the bench. Farmasili will lose his spot. As for the Raiders, they are unchanged. The Raiders, they got the win last week. Again, ain't broke, don't fix it. Two teams that we predicted wrong last week. Basically, we said that the Raiders were all at sea and it wasn't going to happen, and then they win. The Dragons, we said that they'll get up over the Dogs, and they played terrible. They played just absolutely awful. So again, I have a hard time calling this one because I just don't know which one of these sides is going to show up. I have a sneaking suspicion it might be the Raiders, but then again, if you're the Dragons and you lose to the Dogs, realistically, you can't go out and lose again because, again, you're going to get a fan-based headache off the back of that one. People are going to be absolutely all over you. I am going to begrudgingly say Raiders 1 to 12 for this one. I just think that based on how the Raiders played last week, I think that they do have a decent shout. And again, based very much on the form and how the Dragons played last week, and especially with the news as well that Corey Norman won't be offered a contract next season, I think there's going to be a little bit of disgruntled play in the halves, and Norman's going to be trying to go for a contract himself. I'm gonna go Raiders 1 to 12. It's a bit of a stab from me as this one. I just think that their structure might be somewhat more concrete than the Dragons if we're going based on the form of last week.
Yeah, like I said earlier, went through last night, looked at what was going to be the potential team lists for this week, wrote everything down, and I believe I went Raiders 13 plus, Bailey Simonson scores, and I believe, I don't have the book with me, but I believe I said Whiten as well. It's hard to pick. The Dragons at Wollongong are a bit more threatening than the Dragons at ANZ. For whatever reason, whenever they play at Wynn Stadium, they play well. There is a name in the 21, a man by the name of Zach Lomax, who for whatever reason somehow transforms this team when he plays. Now, whether he plays this week is unknown. However, if he does, you'd have to imagine he goes from Gerard Beale, because Beale, he came, he answered, he got one more payday before I reckon he goes back into retirement this year, at the end of this year. But he's not been NRL quality. Hard to say when the most NRL I've played was school grade. But from an observer standpoint, he's not been NRL quality. He got burnt by Avarillo twice. And Avarillo has not been one of the shining lights for the Dogs this year, although he will be next year, I have no doubt. Avarillo and Addo-Carr on one side for a Bulldog attack is quite threatening, if I do say so myself. But Simonson was fantastic at fullback last week. They obviously trust him over Caleb Aikens because Aikens isn't in the 21 this week. He was last week. Matt Tomoko, that's his position to keep as long as Jared Croker is out. And he looked damn good. Sam Williams looked like he enjoyed his footy for the first time in a while. Finally, there was a week without any controversy down at the Raiders. And they played well. Harawira Naira didn't really do much. Yeah, kind of did what he had to do. But the one thing he did do was come from the back wall, go straight through the defense and charge 30 meters to score. So all hail to him, not only for the multi I put on the game, but for my super coach as well. Clutch points. Raiders 13 plus for me. I don't know what happened to the Dragons last week. I don't know how you bounce back from that. But if that's the 17 that they throw out there, it's not going to be pretty, I don't think, if they play anything like they played last week. So Raiders 13 plus, Simonson White, an anytime try scorer. If Lomax comes back, it wouldn't surprise me if they throw him on the side on the left. Who's been on the left? I believe it's Ramsey that's on the left wing. It wouldn't surprise me if he goes over at some point. Lomax requires 2 defenders. He's tall, he's strong, he has an offload. And that means they'll jam in and Ramsey will get a beautiful cutout ball on the left side to go over. But that's if Lomax plays.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Raiders 1-12. I think this one's gonna be slightly tighter. The Raiders, I come back to the point of just play structure. I think the Dragons have been a little bit more sporadic and a little bit more all over the place, and they're reliant. They're almost becoming too reliant on individual efforts. You know, they're reliant on somebody stepping out of the line and Dufty picking a hole. Those are not structured plays. They're not refined plays. Essentially, all you do is you have a man just marking up on Dufty all the time. It's all you do. You make sure that the defensive line stays tight, nobody shoots, and you've found a way to nullify Matt Dufty unless he puts a step on somebody. Bellens finding his way back in. Yes, he's been out for a while, coming, pre-court case and all the off-field drama that unfortunately did mar his career for a short while, and thankfully for him that is over now. But he was a New South Wales forward. He was one of the better forwards in the comp. He was sturdy and reliable, and that's by no means am I saying that he's not that now, but he's just not quite the player that he was 2 years ago, which again you expect when somebody's had that long away from the game, especially look at Beale. Beale was a fantastic centre, but as you mentioned, father time has caught up with him, and you see that in his legs and getting burnt, as you mentioned, by Avarillo on a couple of occasions last week, who, to his credit, Avarillo is an absolute speedster and he's a bit of a gun. But I think the Raiders, in regards to this one, yeah, they've just got the better structure for me, even with Simonson being a bit of a makeshift one. Sutton is keeping his 13 spot, and he's keeping out Hudson Young at the minute, which fair enough. Like, Hudson Young is having to drop down to reserve grade and play his trade there and try and work his way back up, but that's testament to how well Sutton's playing. And I know that he had a lot of critics as well when he first came across, and there was a lot of question marks, but he's earning his spot now. Hodgson has managed to bump Starlett back to the 14 shirt, and I just think that the Raiders are starting to find a little bit of form. I think that they're starting to find a little bit more about them, and I'm tipping to win this one. I'm going to go Raiders 1-12. I'm going to say Rapana, anytime try scorer on that one, and again just a gut feeling. I think that the Dragons, as the numbers line up, he'll have Ramsey and Williami opposite him. Whiten works to that edge, manages to find a cutout ball. Rapana goes over untouched in the corner. Yep.
All right.
Okay then. We will move swiftly on to the Storm against the Tigers. As for the Storm, a few changes for them. Munster, of course, held up at the judiciary. No comment. I played the fifth on that one. We aren't even going to touch it. In the words of Jose Mourinho, if I speak, I'm in trouble. Asifa Solomona comes. Asifa Solomona is into the 8 shirt. Christian Welsh held it up after Origin, and the head knock that he copped, so he will be in the 10 shirt. Eisenhoof is into the 12. There is no Bromwiches for the Storm this week. They will both miss out. As for the Tigers, they welcome new signing Ken Mamalo, fresh off a hat-trick for the Warriors in his departing game. But that is their only change, with the exception of Talau moving from wing, Dewey missing from the squad. Talau will drop into the centres. Roberts will move from the centre into the wing. Mamalo will be in the 5. I think that the Tigers are really missing a trick not putting Talau and Mamalo on the same side. You understand how terrifying that would be? Yeah, that moment of realisation. That's the kind of thing where when you walk out to a game and you're looking at players and you're looking at how the numbers line up, if you're playing on the edge, that's the kind of thing that makes your ring piece pucker up and make the same noise as a helicopter blade going into overdrive. That's terrifying. Those two are huge. You pump the ball down that edge. I don't think that there's many edge players who are going to be physical enough to actually stop them without having to draft the second rower in just to lend a little bit of support. How have they missed that? I get that you want to distribute maybe a little bit of strength. Roberts and Norfoluma on the other side, pace on pace. Talau and Mamalo on the other side. Just huge. That's terrifying. I don't like that. That will keep my child up. I have a 6-year-old. That will keep him awake at night just through sheer terror as to the kind of edge that you are dealing with there. But I don't get paid to pick teams. I don't get paid to do anything really. But but as for the Storm, I'm feeling that this one's going to be a Storm win. I mean, how can you back against a Storm? Last week they were absolutely solid. Hines is coming in, just doing a lights out job at the back. Obviously, he's got a contract now. He's earned his place, but he's not slowing off one bit. And Pappenhausen is potentially, there's an argument that Pappenhausen's got a bit of a job to do to get back into the lineup, because although he's an absolute gun fullback, he's so difficult. He's difficult to keep out the squad, but to drop Nico Hines at this point, based on how he's been playing, would be an absolute injustice. You're not dropping Munster, you're not dropping Hughes, you can't really use Hines as a floating 13. Where the hell do you play Nico Hines? You can't drop him. What's he done to constitute being dropped?
Pappy comes straight in. We both know Pappy comes straight in. Hines has not done a thing to deserve being dropped. This is a team that currently has Harry Grant, who is a origin and potential Australian number 9 on the pine, while Brandon Smith starts at hooker. Yes, I'm rocking on my chair because I don't know how to justify this. The only player, unless they end up going Smith or Harry Grant, at 9, Smith onto the bench as that kind of 13 prop kind of player, and they drop Chris Lewis and have Hines on the bench. The only other player that I could see them dropping, I don't think they will, because he's a decent defender, is Justin Olam. But again, how do you justify dropping Olam?
See, I thought you'd have gone the other side and gone Remus Smith, because you can't have Smith Hines. Yeah, you got too much of a size disparity there. Teams will run that edge constantly. You need Jennings just to bulk out your edge, basically.
Agree. But you go the same thing. Addo-Carr is the flying fox, but Olam's it's weird because Addo-Carr is no small man, but Olam is the defensive size on that side. But where do you play Hines? I think the more reasonable thing will be Harry Grant into 9. Smith comes to the bench. Chris Lewis dropped. Out of this week's list, knowing full well that there's no Bromwich and there's no... Oh, no, Welch is there, sorry. But knowing full well that there's no Kenny, no Jesse, at least for this week, Lewis would be... But I don't know. In terms of this week, Storm 13+. Anytime try scorer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 for the Storm. Take your pick.
Welcome
you
to
could almost
Counting
argue.
with Luke.
You could
Next
almost
week we're
argue
going to
with
18.
Hey, maybe we could get the 20 if he comes up. Lodero has quite well in limited time this year. Realistically, you would say Remus v. Roberts. Realistically, the way he's going, you go the cheese. You could also say Harry Grant. You could also say Nelson. You could also say Nico. You could very easily say the Fox for a double. You could say Hughes. I mean, let me swing it over and find a little bit of value. I'll try and find a try scorer that's not under $2. Who are you going with, Matthew?
I'm going to go. It's a shame they don't offer second half markets for try scorers, but I'm feeling Brandon Smith. Oh, there is. Okay, right. We're going Brandon Smith for a second half try. I'm feeling that when Grant comes on, they're probably going to bump Smith into the 13, give Finucane a rest. I think that then once you've got Smith as that mobile 13, moving around, causing a little bit of havoc, and just being that compact pain in the ass that he is every time you use him, I think that he gets over. So Brandon Smith with a second half try, that's my value one there, I'm going to say. I mean, in terms of an anytime, Mamalo, maybe not a terrible shout considering last week, bag 3 against this Storm side. Yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible shout. But yeah, Storm 13 plus.
Storm 13 plus, Brandon Smith, second half try scorer. I've said second half try scorer, and there's currently no market for it. I can tell you that to score a try in the first half, Brandon Smith is paying $4. I would assume it'd be about that for the second half. Anytime try scorer over $2 for the Storm, there are more than I thought. Hello there. Brandon Smith currently at $2.37. Jerome Hughes at $2.80. Nelson, $4.33. Could very easily burrow through the middle. Kenny Mamala at $2.50. Not bad if you want to throw some money on him. And even Nico Hines at $1.91. You're not saying no to that. Adokar at $1.25 is no value though. So if you want value, absolutely the soft Solomona or Mamalo. Realistically, I said anyone over $2. Olin, Remus Smith, Brandon Smith, 2.2 and 2.37. Jerome Hughes at 2.80. They're probably the 4 that I would throw in. But like I said, you could go 1 to 17 and then add 18, 19, 20 if you want.
Okay. Well, I think we'll get off that one then, and we will get to the Eels versus the Bulldogs. Interesting that the Eels have switched things up a little bit. Obviously, no Mike Acevo this week. He did not hold up at the disciplinary, but thankfully for Eels fans, Isaiah Papali'i did. So there will be a debut for Russell on that left edge. He'll be partnering Opacek, which, of course, means, again, no Fergo. He's obviously found himself absolutely on the outer at the Eels now. So Blake and Hayes Dunster will be featuring for what, fourth time in a row now, their centre wing partnership. Lussick, yeah, three. It was 3 or 4. It was one of the two. Niakure, Lane, Hipgrave, and Roach will make up your bench. As for the Bulldogs, only 2 changes. There is Nick Meaney going to fullback with no Wateni Zalesniak. Of course, he's rumoured to be joining the Warriors and has said that basically he'll take a wing spot if there's one going, which, okay, fair enough. And then Corey Waddell comes into the side as well in a 17 shirt. The Bulldogs are sticking with that Wakeham Avarillo halves pairing, I mean, again, not broke, don't fix it. And then Thompson, Elliott, Dory, Jackson, Ara, and Hetherington make up your front row and your second row and your 13. I mean, I'm going to call it Bulldogs fluked it last week. What are the chances? I mean, you might as well just hit me with lightning at this point. If the Bulldogs win this one by 13 plus, hit me with lightning, okay? Because these things just don't happen twice. I'm backing the Eels. I'm backing the Eels by a decent margin. Bulldogs, I don't think realistically make it over 16 points. So the only reason that I say 16, which is an oddly specific number, is just because I think that the Bulldogs will get over. I think it will probably come down that Russell Opachik side, just because it's an unfamiliar wing centre partnership. They'll be feeling each other out a little bit and getting used to their defensive strategies. But yeah, I mean, the Bulldogs, they've got some decent players to their credit. But coming up against an Eels side, I mean, most of the Bulldogs' talent realistically is in their forward pack, and they come up against RCG, Paolo, Papali'i, Mattison and Brown, and then you got Neocuria, Lane, Hipgrave and Roach on the bench. Just throw them in whenever. It's just not happening, unfortunately, boys. Yeah, I'm going to go Eels 13 plus. I reckon the Eels put on a good margin. I'd say this game runs for 50 plus points easily. I don't think that the Bulldogs get more than 16 of them.
Okay. I'm going to throw some stats your way because there are a couple. Now, you said 16 points. In 2 of the last 5 games dating back to round 3, 2019, the Dogs have hit 16 exactly. They went 12 in their only win in the last 5 at Bankwest a couple of years ago, 2 in the season opener last year in an absolute crap game, and 10 at the start of May this year. Now, in terms of over 50 points in the last 5 games, that has only been hit once, and that was 5 games ago. It was 36-16. Parramatta have won 3 first halves. 2 first halves have been tied. Parramatta have also won 4 of the 5 second halves. The only time they did not win a second half was the second game last year in August at Stadium Australia. The Dogs 10 points to nothing in the second half. They still lost. Do I think Parramatta win 13 plus? Yes, I do. Do I think it's anything more than 18? No, I don't. If there is a 13 to 18 market, hit it with your best shot. It's the Dogs, man. They're crap. But for whatever reason, they always, much like the Warriors, always show up to some extent against Parramatta. Now, they will target Sean Russell. If they don't, I question Trent Barrett as coach. He's been good in New South Wales Cup by all reports. Good enough to keep Fergo out. We'll find out on Sunday. Wonga Blake, I criticised Brad Arthur a couple of weeks ago for him being in the side. I'm not yet ready to take it back, but I'm on the way. He is playing well. We won't say good. We're not there yet. He has a long way to go, but he's playing well. Joey Lussick. Wouldn't have thought Reid Marnie had been at the club. Lussick came in and it was as if nothing changed. Fantastic work. And we have the former Warrior in Nathaniel Roach in the 17, who is a very attacking player, who will come on for 15 or 20 minutes, can play 13 as well. Holy crap. Yes, please. And thank you. Neocuria, Sean Lane, who has been remarkable off the bench, Keegan Hipgrave and Roach, against Sione Katoa, Dylan Napa, Avasi Manafanai, and Corey Waddell. I would argue that we win 3 of those, and the iffy one is Roach and Waddell, we being Parramatta. So, if I have to give you a tip, Parramatta 13 to 18, I would almost back Avarillo for any time try scorer, though. He has a knack. I believe he scored in 2 of the last 3 against Parramatta, including this year. In terms of a Parramatta anytime try scorer, I am running all over Isaiah Papali'i. You could also say Ryan Madison. Love those two as try scoring options. In terms of your backs, Dunster's due. Dunster is due. He's going to have to step up his running meters. He'll take more action. Potentially also means that Kotrich, if that's how the numbers line up, could come up against a tired Dunster at the end of the game and stroll over. So if I was to throw it in a multi, Eels 13-18 or 13-19, depending on who you bet with. Gamble responsibly, all that jazz. Kotrich, anytime. Papali'i, anytime. If you want to throw Avarillo and Dunster, you can. But definitely Papali'i, definitely Kotrich.
Okay. I'm going to go Eels 13 plus. I'm going to go over 50 points for the match. Bulldogs get under 16 points, under 16 and a half, sorry. And I'm not even going to go for an anytime. I think that I've loaded up with 3 there. I think in regard, if I'm going to pick an anytime, I get a sneaky suspicion about Opacek. I just think that he probably sells it and goes himself, and the Eels go there. So throw that one in if you fancy. If you don't, we'll move on to the round's final game. It is the Titans versus the Sea Eagles, and both sides will be welcoming back Origin contingents. As for the Titans, they are naming Campbell in the 1, and then it is the familiar 2 through 5 of Marzu, Kelly, Herbert, and Sammy. Clark is keeping his 9 shirt. Stone comes into the 11. There is no Proctor this week. Fafita is in the 12 shirt. Fasu and Malawi back from Origin duty as well in the 13. And then their bench will be Peachy, Jolliffe, McIntyre, and Whitbread. As for the Sea Eagles, pretty much unchanged. Kepi is into the lineup as their only change. Tom Trebojevic is expected to run out at 1. So Titans fans, it's not looking brilliant for you, in all honesty, because we know what a Sea Eagles side with him can do. Foran and Cherry Evans are your 6 and 7 pairing. Croker keeping that 9 shirt. He's keeping Cade Cust out of the squad at the minute. Lawton has done enough to hang on to that 12 shirt as well, with Olika R2 in the 11 shirt and Ben Trebojevic in the 15 as well, with Dylan Walker in 14. Sipley is your final interchange. I mean, we said it last week. The Sea Eagles need to play well, prove they can play well without Tom Trebojevic. They hit the Cowboys for 50 points basically. They looked the part. They played very well, and again, they're only going to get better as they welcome back their Origin players. But the same can be said about the Titans, missing a lot of key players last week, and despite a 35-34 scoreline against the Roosters, didn't play that well. It was only a last 20, 15-minute push that almost saw them snatch the game. But again, you got to stay consistent. You got to remain in the game at all times, and the Titans just left it too late. And no Brimson this week as well, which is a big loss for the Titans. It's got to be said they're a far better team with him in the squad than without him. But you got Peachy there in the 14, who just comes in and causes carnage wherever he goes, basically. Wherever you fancy sticking him, Peachy will just be a continual headache.
Yeah. The interesting thing about last week was that Fifi and Tino played, but they weren't used as they typically would be. But they still played. And the Titans still got thumped. Did they get thumped? I actually can't remember. It's been a long week.
Yeah, 35-34 against the Roosters. They were getting blown out at one point.
I only remember the first 50 minutes. I think I turned the TV off after that. So that's why I think the Titans got thumped. Yeah, but they were getting thumped. And then, just pigs started flying, and very nearly we had a new record in the books. Didn't happen. Unlucky Titans. Don't really know if this is the team I want to be playing the week after that. Tommy Turbo, good afternoon. Welcome back. Good to see you. You're going to run rings around the Titans. I have no doubt about it. I do like Tyrone Peachy on the bench. I really like Peachy. He's becoming a very good bench player. His impact has been superb this year. Don't really know why they have Dylan Walker on there. Doesn't really, I mean, it's like Moses Sully. Doesn't really give a whole bunch of versatility. But then again, neither does Tavita Funa, who's a winger. Neither does Christian Tuipulotu. I apologize if I butchered that. Another winger. At least DeLewis is a forward, so he can play wing and prop. I believe I had Manly 13 plus. I'm going to stick to that. I know I had Turbo as an anytime try scorer. I believe I also had Carl Lawton as an anytime try scorer going up against Sam Stone. I'm not 100% sure. You could absolutely make a case for Brad Parker as well with Turbo back. I don't really think there's much of a need to analyse this one. We've rambled on enough about every other game from my perspective. 13 plus for Manly, Turbo, Parker, and or Carl Lawton anytime.
Yeah. I'm going to join you. Seagulls 13 plus. I reckon probably a high scoring game. I reckon this one runs for a minimum of 46.5. So back the over on what they are offering on that market. I think the majority of those points will be made up by the Seagulls. Again, just Tom Trbojevic, ever since that injury, come back, just a headache all the time. And then you've got players outside him like Jason Saab, who will just, you give him a straight line, he'll gun it down the line. So it's ridiculous to watch. I mean, you look at the forward packs. Yes, the Titans have got the better of the forward pack, so saying that the Seagulls not exactly light on reinforcements with Paseka and Tapau, and obviously Jake Trbojevic as well. Lawton has come in and done a decent job. The only thing that does, like you say, concern me is the bench. You've got Ben Trbojevic, who's somewhat of a back. Dylan Walker, who, yes, can come in, be a playmaker, be an edge player if you need him to, be a 13 if you really need him to. And then Kepi and Sipley. The Seagulls want a 13 quality. The bench hit and miss, but then again, the Titans, the only real player of note for their bench at the minute is Peachy and maybe Jolliffe at a push on his day. So, but yeah, I'm going to go Seagulls 13 plus. Anytime try scorer. Do you know what? Left field, we're going Kieran Foran. I think DC will be that structured player. Yeah, exactly. We're going wildly unpredictable today. I just think that Foran probably gets a decent opportunity coming to the line. He's not been doing a lot of running, and I think that he'll probably be given a little bit more license to roam against the Titans, especially with how they play with Fogarty and Taylor, and them being quite mobile in the halves. So it's a value shout. Always gamble responsibly. If you don't think it's a decent tip, don't back it. But I'm going to go with Foran anytime.
All right, fair enough.
Okay. Well, I think that's it then. We've gone for it longer than we usually would. That's flown. But no, thank you for joining us. I am sick of the sound of my own voice, and you are probably sick of it too. So with that, we will sign off. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you then.